Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Tai'Shar Manethrin, a Wheel of Time podcast. I'm Sam.
I'm Will.
And we're back finishing up The Lord of Chaos, Book 6 of the Wheel of Time. So, Will, you want to take it away?
Sure enough, Chapter 53, The Feast of Lights. Perrin is observing Kyrian during the Feast of Lights. There's a great deal of description here about all of what the Feast of Lights involves, but...
It's like Mardi Gras, pretty much.
Yeah, I said, it's Mardi Gras meets Burning Man.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Lots of unclothed people drinking and doing things that people who are drinking and unclothed are given to do.
Indeed.
Though, as always, Jordan leaves most of the debauch portions to the reader's imagination. Perrin is still frustrated that Rand is nowhere to be found, having been gone for 6 days now. Fael is playing stones with Loyal, and she's still angry with Perrin. And Sulin is upset because she's Sulin.
You're right.
Perrin, at this point, still doesn't know that she is a maiden. And so...
he's like, you are an awful servant.
Yeah. So he's just like, I don't know what, she's just always got her knickers in a twist about something. But anyway.
Probably because she hates wearing knickers.
Yeah. Suddenly, Dobrain enters and explains that 2 different Kyrianan nobles have turned up dead, while Colliver had a meeting with lesser nobles to gather support for her taking the Sun Throne.
This is sort of when Dobrain becomes a slightly larger character.
Right.
Still not a major character, but not just a random name that's thrown out periodically.
Yeah. And Dobrain has to all but come out and say that he thinks Colliver was behind the deaths before Perrin picks up what he's laying down. He's like, so what? What do those have to do with each other?
He's like, come on, man, just reason it out. Don't make me say it.
Then Berylane enters and Perrin yells at her to get out.
Which we know that's the wrong thing to do. Yeah. Don't do that.
Yeah. Fael feels hurt, or smells hurt, I should say. She drops what she's carrying, Berylane does, and turns out Berylane was bringing them Rand's sword, which he was not likely to have left behind. And Sulin declares that Rand has been taken. And she gives quite a speech. I've paraphrased it here. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. But if you are looking for ransom, I can tell you I don't have gold. But what I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills that I have acquired over a very long career.
Oh, man.
Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you. If you let my first brother go now, that'll be the end of it. I will not look for you. I will not pursue you. But if you don't, I will look for you. I will find you, and I will kill you. Or something like that. Anyway. Right. She calls for Cadensor and demands someone bring her shears to cut her hair. Somewhere in the midst of this, Berylane explains to all the confused onlookers that, Sulin isn't a servant. She's a maiden with a spear.
Right.
And I feel like Perrin has one of those usual suspect drop the coffee cup kind of moments where he's like, oh, wait, that
makes sense.
Yeah. The plot comes into focus as they realize Colliver must have moved on her rivals only because she wasn't expecting Rand to come back.
So she knew.
Yeah. Ruark can't spare Mini Aiel because scouts report Shido are moving towards Kyrian, and the only Aiel that are willing to fight against Aes Sedai are the Siswayaman and the maidens anyway. So Dobrain agrees to bring his soldiers, and the wise ones offer to gather up as many wise ones as will go fight to help counter the Aes Sedai's abilities. At this point also, we're reminded Perrin didn't know wise ones could channel. And so,
that's interesting. It's something you don't think about, like just characters not being up to speed on all the details of things.
Right. So he discovers that when one of, I can't remember which, one of them, makes a fireball in the air or something to be like, hey, we'll take care of the Aes Sedai for you.
Maybe it was Sorolea, who can barely channel, but it's just enough that we're going to declare war on these crazies.
We swap to Galena's perspective. She's considering Min, who she actually remembers both as Min from her first visit to the tower and Elmindrida from her second visit there. Galena is pressuring her for information about Rand to no avail. we find out that Rand killed 2 warders, one with his bare hands and the other with the first sword. And that gets pretty glossed over.
Yeah, that's crazy.
At this point, our boy, Shielded, managed not only to break free and attack 2 warders without dying, he killed one with his bare hands.
Yeah. I guess all that like training with Ruark and like
I guess.
And with Lan, like just over all the time paid off.
Sure. You may be asking yourself where he got the bare hands. And that's what I'm here to tell you. He didn't have hands belonging to a bear. He only had his bare hands. And this whole thing is a little hard to explain. He didn't have any weapons of any kinds. How about that? And then
but his hands are registered weapons in 6 states.
He took that warder's sword and mortally wounded his brother husband, who presumably was right there as the first guy was getting killed. Like, if you can picture that, he just like jumps out, rips one guy apart, and I just feel like we needed more than the 2 sentences.
That's just a throwaway line. Like, hold on, wait, what?
That Jordan gives us. I mean, no offense, RJ. I know you needed that real estate to describe a dress. It's important stuff.
I was just gonna say, yeah. There are definitely times where he zigs when I would zag if I was, writing a 15, 16 tome giant sprawling epic.
It's true. The warders that he killed belonged to an Aes Sedai named Arian. She reports to Galena that she desperately wants to punish Rand for continuing to try to break his shield. And Galena's like, yeah, sure, go ahead. And she's like, if it were up to me, I would have gentled this guy already, but those aren't my orders. And side note, we need to come up with the equivalent of stilled and killed for men. So maybe gentled and segmented.
I was going to say gentled and pimpled, but that doesn't work.
It's a little more roundabout, but I think it gets there. I won't tell you how long I spent with a rhyming dictionary trying to come up with that disappointing gag.
Oh, I hear you. I mean,
just be glad.
Is tough. It's a tough one for sure.
I also thought about both of us just going back and forth. Yeah, gentled, but I couldn't really make sense.
There's not enough words like
dentled, ornamentaled,
sentimental. I don't know.
Yeah. So anyway, Rand is in the box, just thinking, because he hasn't had a business consultant from the 1980s show up to tell him, "Hey, think outside the box."
Hey.
Suddenly, he's pulled out of the box. Feels like death warmed over, and Irian just starts beating the ever-loving tar out of him.
Yep.
I feel like I need to emphasize that this is a pretty wretched beating because there's a lot of detail. And unlike the killing of the warders, I just want to mention there's a good amount of detail about this beating, whereas we didn't get details about killing of those 2 warders. Anyway, Lews Therin does make an appearance for a moment somewhere in there, and Rand decides to smile to just annoy his captors. He also resolves to never trust Aes Sedai again once more. Not an inch, not a hair. And he kind of passes out and wakes back up and is surprised to see Savannah is talking to Galena for a moment. You remember her. She was the Shido evil wise one. It kind of took over the head of the Shido after Couladin died off screen.
Yep.
Galena and Savannah refer to some kind of deal they've got, and we don't really find out what that is. So Rand is put back into his box. So Rand and Lews finally get to having something close to
heart there.
Yeah, proper dialogue, as both of them are trying to reach for the power. Lews actually explains how to loose the shield. It's only possible if they tie it off rather than actively maintaining it. He feels those soft points, and he knows he has to wait until they're hard points before he can unravel them. Rand decides to make the Aes Sedai believe his resolve is weakening in hopes that they might tie off the shield.
Right.
So back to Galena's perspective, she reveals that she plans on having the Shido kill the younglings. I'm not sure why, but hey, Galena was dumb enough to try to capture the Dragon Reborn. and she doesn't know about the spaghetti storm that's about to fall from above and rain down on her. So
Yep.
we swap to Savannah's perspective, who might be the dumbest person in the Wheel of Time.
Yeah,
She's one of
pretty
them.
awful. Yeah, she's
And,
so very ambitious.
right.
It's just
And
in strange ways. Like
I feel like
ambitious.
Narg would have made a better leader, but anyway, she thinks about how she's going to have the Karakharn on a leash one day, but also marry him. I don't know, and it's confusing.
It is.
And instead of carrying out whatever the Aes Sedai wanted to do, she plans to attack them and take Rand, just to prove that she is the worst. Instead of just attacking them, she has to come up with an excuse to make the Shido attack them. So she has one of the Shido Wise Ones channel to kill one of her fellow Aiel, who she considered a rival. So she can be like, all right, they killed this person, I guess. And I don't know. The thing that's kind of dumb about this is the Aes Sedai can attack unless you attack them first. So, there could have been ways that they could have like just walked in there and picked up Rand. And yeah, they would have had to have dealt with the warders at that point. Out and out attacking them, I don't know. Just doesn't seem all that savvy, Sevi. All right, chapter 54, The Sending. Okay, so these are some of my favorite chapters in the whole series, right?
They're pretty epic. They're pretty epic.
Yeah. So if I sound a little giddy, it's not just because my doctor adjusted my meds. So it's the Festival of Lights still going on. Perrin is riding toward the river, accompanied by Gaul and Loyal, who have, by the way, Loyal has a long handle
on his axe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is going to go down.
Now. Yeah.
So after they cross the river, Perrin thinks about his relationship drama. He also picked up a new horse, by the way, which he decided it's not Stepper, it's Stayer, because why not?
Not very inventive with his names.
Yes. They meet up with a bunch of people, and the Mayanners, the Wing Guards. Soon after the Aiel show up, there's 5,000 Siswayamon, 1,000 maidens, just short of 100 wise ones. So that night, Perrin turned on the wolf signal,
right,
or put out the wolf vibe, or posted on wolf book, whichever of those jokes works for you. Just I'm full of them tonight. All right,
I'm just thinking Wolf from The Office. He wolfed.
After he makes contact with the wolves and they exchange names, scents, and LinkedIn pages, Perrin begins to explain what's up. Perrin talks a bit to Wildfire, who could reach Halftail, who could call Rabbit Nose, who could call Two Moons. He's able to determine that they're about 60 to 70 miles behind the Aes Sedai who took Ran, or the two-legged Shees who touch the wind that moves the fire.
Right.
Which is what
like
the wolves referred to Aes Sedai. After Perrin is asking all these questions, because he keeps asking, trying to get specifics about the number of people, and they're like, I don't know, there's a lot of people.
Right, we don't care about that.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of two legs. We try to stay away from him most of the time. But he keeps asking questions, and finally, one of them, I think it's like Halftail, or says, why? Finally, after he's been asking these questions. And so he kind of sighs. I flipping love this moment. This is one of the like the lighting the beacons of Gondor kind of
yes,
type,
true,
a little bit. It's a little bit of this moment.
Yeah.
But Perrin hesitates in responding to the wolves because, for one thing, he's not sure how important Rand is to them.
Sure.
But also he knows if they do come into battle, that a lot of them will die. And he says he feels about the wolves the same way he feels about Two Rivers Men. He doesn't want them to get killed. So reluctantly, he says they have caged Shadow Killer, which is Rand's awesome name that the wolves have for him. And suddenly howls spring up from everywhere, like miles and miles around, and anger and fear and shock run up and down the Sending. And after that goes on for a long time, and like everybody in the camp's like freaking out, like, where, what's going on?
The horses are like, what is happening?
And after it silences, there's a moment, and each of the wolf packs, one by one, say, "We come." And I love that moment. Yeah, I'm excited for that. This part.
Yeah, for sure. Me too.
So after pulling the pin on that grenade, Perrin just kind of sits down and talks about women with Loyal.
Like you do.
Well, Loyal talks about Aerith and how great her ears are, and
Right.
and asks Perrin if all wives are jealous like Fael, and Perrin's like, what's funny is Perrin is genuinely put off by this. He's like,
It's like,
Fael's
no, she's not jealous. Come on.
Yeah, I'm like, this is sweet. This guy's truly in love.
Right.
Yeah, you know,
Everyone else in the world can see it, but not you.
Exactly. Yeah. So Perrin is a little worried about the dynamics between the multiple armies that he's marching with.
The Aiel and the tree killers.
Right. The maidens and the Siswaimon don't always get along, sometimes even fighting barefisted in what looks to Perrin like a no-holds-barred fight. And of course, the Kyrianan aren't excited about hanging out with Aiel savages, and even the wise ones are showing signs of disagreement with each other. So the seventh day, one of the wolves informs Perrin that someone is approaching and by the description of the banner, he realizes it's the Two Rivers men who are lagging behind them.
I'm looking forward to the show and seeing how they do the wolves, especially since we've talked about the wolves recently. Like,
right.
I want like two perspectives, like one where he's thinking his thoughts to the wolves and we're seeing the images, and then maybe like where it just zooms out and there's a wolf just like staring at him.
Yeah.
He's like talking to the wolf and it's staring at him.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And maybe somebody's looking at it and I'm like, what's
the heck,
happening,
man?
What's happening right now?
Right. You're talking to this wolf.
Right.
Fun.
When the Two Rivers men catch up, not only are there, of course, bowmen, but also the 9 Aes Sedai from the Saladar embassy, as well as Varen and Alana.
Right.
Alana was leading them in the direction of Rand, though at this point they're still not sure he's been abducted. They just know he's this way. They have Stepper also.
Right. No, he has 2 horses.
Yeah, Perrin's like, well, I guess I can have 2 horses.
That's okay. That's a small luxury I can afford myself.
Right. Also, Aram's there. And once Perrin explains Rand has been abducted and he's going to fight a bunch of Aes Sedai, they're all like, well, we don't want to share the dragon with the Tower Aes Sedai. And then they're mention of all the different Aes Sedai that are there. And I don't know. They're
Good
there.
Call. Yep.
Anyway, chapter ends with Perrin saying, "Come now to the wolves." Chapter 55, Dumai's Wells. Yay. All right, we start with a Gowan perspective. The younglings have stopped by a set of stone wells known as Dumai's Wells. He's traveling with the Tower Aes Sedai, and he only recently found out that they were holding Rand prisoner. He's hoping that Egwene won't be too angry about that, because he promised he wouldn't hurt Rand. He's thinking about trying to find a way to free Min, because he thinks it's totally unfair that she got pulled into this with him, when one of his scouts shows up and promptly dies. Gowan manages to convince Galena to hold so they can prepare for an attack.
Yeah.
So Rand is still in the box, and he starts to notice that Alana's getting close. He keeps fumbling at those points on the shield weaves. And he also realizes he's not been let out for his daily beating.
Right.
And
expecting it.
Yeah, he's like, something's up. So Perrin has climbed up the hill to get a look at what they're facing, and he sees Shido fighting Aes Sedai. So one of the Aes Sedai that is with him says she can feel 200 women who can channel down there. And Ruark looks and says he thinks that's about 40,000 Shido. Everybody's properly concerned, and they're all like, hey, this is a lot
of people.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going down. Perrin's like, well, you can leave. I'm going in after him.
Right.
Karuna's like, oh, okay, good. I was just, testing you.
Of course, that's what we're going to do. Yeah.
After everyone's ready, Perrin says to the wolves, "Come." And then it gets crazy. Everyone jumps into this battle. Of course, you have Tower Aes Sedai and Shido, and then the wolves and the Siswaimon and the maidens and the Kyrianan Lancers and the Wing Guards and the Warders and Wise Ones and Younglings and Saladar Sedai and Two Rivers Bowmen and Loyal and Aram and Gandalf the Grey and Gandalf the White and Monty Python and the Holy Grail's Black Knight and Benito Mussolini and the Blue Meanie and Cowboy Curtis and Jambi, Genie, Robocop the Terminator, Captain Kirk, Darth Vader, Lopan, Superman, every single Power Ranger, Bill S. Preston, Theodore, Logan, Spock the Rock, Doc Ock, and Hulk Hogan, and Dobrain are all there fighting.
And Dobrain.
So, and this fight is epic.
Yes, it is.
The images of like Aram and Loyal, just the way they're hacking through the battle, and we get a picture of Aram. He kind of likes battle. He's kind of laughing and
maniacally a little bit.
Yeah. The Saladar Sedai Karuna is just majestically walking through the battlefield slowly, while her warders are clearing out a path for her, and folks on either side are just like bursting into flame and everything. I'm like, hey, go Green Aja.
I guess she feels threatened.
Yes, apparently. Meanwhile, back in everyone's favorite box, Rand starts to notice that the Aes Sedai are tying off their weaves for some reason, until only 2 of the 6 are still being held actively. So he starts attacking the tied off knots and manages to get rid of the 4th knot as a 3rd woman joins the shield, but it's too late because he can break a shield of 3, and he's able to reach Saidin enough to break the barrier.
Right.
He channels air to make that stupid box explode away from him. In what has to be a crowning moment of awesome.
Yes, it better be.
In the process, he manages to still the 3 women who are still holding the shield.
Burns them out.
Yep. Yeah, who were just red shirts. We didn't actually even. I don't think we even got names for them.
Yeah, they're 3 of the 15 randos.
Right. So he quickly finds Min, who is injured but all right. She asks him to open a gateway, and he's like, "It don't work that way, sweetie."
I hadn't been here long enough. I don't know the place.
He's like, "I have no clue where we are." If things weren't already awesome enough, Falcon shows up and he's like, "On your left, Cap." And suddenly, throughout the battlefield, gateways start to cut through everything, and all around them drop in all of these Ashaman.
Yep.
All these guys in black coats with pins on their collars, and they're like, "Ibombe!" And Rand finds the women who held him and starts binding them and shielding them, and he's like having to resist, killing them, because like Luz in the back of his mind is like, kill them all.
Yep.
Around this time, Rand starts to notice that they're surrounded by Aiel. And this is a funny thing. Like he noticed the Ashaman first. He doesn't even know that there's a whole other battle really going on around him.
Yeah,
that is only kind of tangential, but the Shido and the Siswayaman, it's just so chaotic that he actually thinks for a moment, okay, I have gone crazy. And a bunch of Shido approach, and I love the way it says when Rand attacks them, RJ says, "Fire shot out of a dozen everywhere." I love that phrasing.
Yeah.
Then Gowan walks up, and the White Knight that he is, he's like, "Hey, Min, I'll take you out of here," even though she's like standing there with the most powerful man in the world right now.
Right. I'll take you away from that weird creep.
Then she's like, "Nah, I'm good." Gowan's then like says to the younglings, "Let's get out of here." And it's just, I don't even like it here anymore. He turns to Rand and is like, "Hey, I'm going to see you dead one day."
Right.
And
middle finger kind of thing.
Right. Pretty much. Yeah. Then Taim shows up and explains how he figured out that Rand had been kidnapped and everything, and says, "I hope you won't mind me breaking your rule about attacking Aes Sedai." Rand notices there's a dome of air that is containing the central portion of the battle that's maintained by the Ashaman. Somewhere around here, he's not surprised to see Perrin, Loyal, Aram, Sulan, and a partridge in a pear tree. Perrin asks Rand to have the dome dispensed so they can stop the Shido outside of the dome from killing the remaining Wise Ones and Two Rivers folk. And after a tense moment, Rand commands Taim to order the Ashaman to raise his banner and open the dome and break the Shido. So we then get Taim ordering the dome to be dropped and giving the second coolest line that Taim has in this chapter, which is simply, "Ashaman, kill." And this is pretty much the goriest moment described, maybe in all the books.
Yeah, it's really upsetting. Like for everybody's just like in horror and shock. Like, oh my goodness, what did they do?
Right. Basically, it's just like the Ashman create a giant invisible, and Jordan actually uses the phrase meat grinder,
right?
That the Shido are just running headlong into. They're just exploding. After it's emphasized for a few paragraphs just how gross this is, Perrin actually throws up looking at it.
Right.
Rand makes Taim call them off in a classic enough, finally.
Yep.
This, by the way, is the one moment that ensures the show should be rated mature for violence.
If like in like the first book or two, there's not so much of it like this, but not like Game of Thrones level violence, but this certainly qualifies.
Yeah. So after the dust settles and body parts and whatever, the Saladar Aes Sedai approach Rand, and he's not all that happy to see them. And even though they're like, yes, pat on the back to us, right?
We did great. We saved you. We're here to help.
He's like, I don't care. You're Aes Sedai. You still didn't obey my rules. So kneel before me and swear your fealty. And that's when Taim gets the coolest line he has.
Yep.
And he gets to say, kneel and swear to the Lord Dragon, or you will be knelt. Which, I'm sorry, Game of Thrones fans, but you gotta face it. Way more awesome than any bend the knee business anyone
bend the knee got
says.
so old too. Yeah, they said it all the time.
Kneel or you will be knelt. Then, there's this poetic ending that's all about how the bottom line, the Aes Sedai did kneel and swear.
Declare fealty, and that's like the huge change. Like not something that's happened other than with Moraine.
Yeah, pretty much. And then we get an epilogue. And the epilogue has a name. It's The Answer. And the epilogue is kind of an odd little series of just kind of random events, like very quick bits. Phalion Banda is spying on the Wonder Girls and Ebu Dar. Don't really get anything else out of that. Then a golem, which we're not even totally sure what a golem is still. But it's strongly hinted that a golem has killed Herod Fell.
Right.
The Shan-Chan man who overheard Matt refer to the Daughter of the Nine Moons is hopeful that the Shan-Chan army will show up soon. Ermengar shows up and frees Mogideon.
Right.
Then Egwene feels Mogideon's necklace come off, but doesn't catch her before she leaves and correctly surmises that the Idom had to have been removed by a man. But she wonders if it was Loghain.
Makes sense. The only other person she knows of, the only other man that she knows of that can channel nearby.
Right. And then at the end here, Demandred is just chilling with Shida Haran.
It's a nice bookend since he was with Shida Haran in the epilogue and the prologue also. So it's kind of bookend the book.
Right. He's talking to the Great Lord and he's all like, hey, I did good, right? And that is the conclusion of the Lord of Chaos. I had one spoilerish thought to add here. So if you don't want to be spoiled for any future books, then go ahead and hop off, and we'll see you next time. But again, the Demandred being Taim thing.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Like the fact that Demandred here at the ending is saying, "Did I do good?" and has not been in the book almost at all that we've known about. I mean, he's showed up a few times randomly and passed information off, or spied on Elaine creepily or whatever. But other than that, he hasn't been in the book. It would make a lot more sense for him to have been Taim, because Taim's played a huge role in the book.
Right. And it really does go towards that's the theory that a lot of people seem to have, which is maybe Jordan did intend for him to be Taim in this book and then changed his mind later.
Yeah, you can certainly see that being true. Make perfect sense.
But that was the only other thought.
All right. Well, everybody, that's our show for today. Glad you could join us as we finished up Lord of Chaos. Our website is tsmpodcast.com. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, the usual social medias at Podcast TSM. If you have anything that you'd like to tell us, if you have a friendly correction, if you just want to talk to us about something and have a topic for us to discuss, you can reach us at stuff@tsmpodcast.com. And thanks again for listening. And until next time, Tai'Shar Manethrin.